Hey guys, Tyrozine here. Recently I've been getting a lot of questions and comments about what add-ons I use, about my spec, how to gem, how to reforge your druid, and I figured I'd make a video to explain to you how I go about doing that to my druid. I'm just a casual player. I don't claim to be rank 1, none of that. I really just play this game for fun and I enjoy playing it. As we all know, Resto Druids right now are the hardest healer to play in Arena. There are several Gladiator and Rank 1 Resto Druids, but they do require a very high skill cap. We can be global almost instantly by melee cleaves, smoke bomb cleaves, anything that has melee in it is pretty much trouble for Druids. Now, let's talk about my gear. I'm getting a lot of questions about, how to gem and how to reforge. The way that I do my guy, basically, and I'll show you right here, if you look at my helmet, anything that's not reforged to spirit, anything that doesn't have spirit already, I reforged to spirit. So for example, my helmet had mastery in it, but didn't have spirit, so I reforged my mastery to spirit. The reason being is that you want as high of a mana regen as possible, because, when it comes down to a situation where you need to get your target up quick, you have to regrowth spam. And regrowth costs a large amount of mana. That's one of the unfortunate sides of Druids right now. Our big heal is regrowth, and it only heals like 18k. It casts quick, but for the mana cost, it's not really efficient. That's why I like to stack Life Bloom. If you're healing a target and he's dropping quick, just stack your Life Bloom 3 times, let it proc. Because for me, my Life Bloom procs sometimes from 40k to 60k. There's the occasional time where I'll use Nature Swiftness Healing Touch when it's really bad, if Tree Form's down, and I've actually healed a 71k Nature Swiftness. How? I don't know, but it did. For the necklace, I got the Spell Penetration Necklace. You want to be sure you have at least, around 250 Spell Pen, so your Cyclones don't miss, your Roots don't miss. Resisted. You don't want them to be resisted. Now, if you take a look at the gear that already has Spirit, I leave it as it is. You don't have to reforge it. You want to keep your mana regen as high as possible. Right now, I got 4,300 resilience, and I'm running one PvE trinket. Uh, I still think Dark Moon card is probably one of the best ones for Druids. There is the one that drops in that PvE raid, and it does have, I believe, double the Spirit, maybe a little more, but it doesn't have the Intellect, and you have to do raids to get it. Now, raids are pretty easy to do with the new raid finder system, but I just don't want to really invest the time to do that. I'm happy with what I have right now. Now, let's talk about my gems. For yellow gems, I'm using resilience gems for every yellow slot I have. You see my shoulders, I have plus 40 resilience. What else do we got here? My boots, plus 40 resilience. My chest, I have another 40 resilience. And the name of that gem is called the Mystic Amber Jewel, and it gives you 40 resil. Now, for all my gear, I gem to match the sockets, because as a druid, pretty much every stat benefits you. There's no reason to just stack intellect or purely gem resilience in all your slots. Regardless, we're squishy. It won't make any difference at this point. Now, for my red gems, I use intellect, which is the 40 intellect gem. It's called the Brilliant Inferno Ruby. For every red slot I have, you'll see one of those there. And for blue, I use a purple gem. It's called Purified Demon Soul, and I have it right here in my gloves. It gives you 20 intellect and 20 spirit. That's probably the best blue gem. Now, I have seen other druids gem other ways, but that's, it's basically based on personal choice. I feel with the way that I'm gemming, it's the best I can go for my play style. Everyone has their own play style. You play for how you feel is the best for your character. If you want to get a better look at my gems and all that, just armoring my character. The name is Tyrozine, and I'm on Darkspear. Now, let's talk about my spec. I have 7 in balance, 3 in feral, and 31 in restoration. Now we're going to look at my talent tree. I've been getting a lot of questions why I put 1 point in perseverance instead of 1 point in blessing of the grove. Again, this is preference. There is no way you can say one is better than the other. I've always done blessing of the grove, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. Now it only makes your healing better by 2% and your direct moonfire damage by 3%. I like the 2% less spell damage a little more. I haven't really noticed the difference, so I'm really just trying it there. I have 2 points in natural shapeshifter. another point in Master Shapeshifter, 3 in Heart of the Wild, 3 in Improved Rejuve, and we'll skip down the 1 in Nature Swiftness, Revitalize. I have that full Living Seed. I have that full, and the Living Seed's very good. It works very well when melees are training you. Now, Empowered Touch, waste of points, because you're almost never going to use Healing Touch or Nourish, and you don't want Life Bloom to reapply. You want it to proc, because that's one of your best heals is Life Bloom. Naturalist, don't waste any points in it because you're never going to use Healing Touch or Nourish. And the reason why you're not going to cast those is they take so long to cast, you can easily get global. If a mage counterspells you full, they will just switch to you and more than likely kill you. I don't have any points in Nature's Ward. I don't view that as actually good at all because it's easy enough to recast a Rejuve that, it's no cast time. So I think that's a waste of points. And then I have the whole bottom full. You can take a look at my armory to see the rest. We'll go over to the Feral. I have 3 points in Furor. It increases your maximum mana by 15%, which is pretty good. We're going to go over to my balance tree. I have 3 points in Nature's Grace, 2 in Nature's Majesty, 1 in Genesis, and then 1 in Balance of Power. Now, a couple of druids asked me, why do I put 1 point in Balance of Power? Basically, it makes you hit capped. And if you're not hit capped, your Moonfire, Fairy Fire, Insect Swarm, sometimes they'll miss your target. You want to be sure you have that 1 point in there because they will keep you hit capped. Because if you take a look at my hit right now, I have a 10.68% hit chance. So I have a 0% miss because of that. And the 1 point in Genesis is just to increase the Swiftman by 2% and increase the duration of Moonfire and Insect Swarm by 2 seconds. Let me show you my glyphs. I have the Glyph of Rejuvenation, Glyph of Life Bloom, and Glyph of Swiftmend. Those 3 there, in my opinion, are the best ones you can use for your primes. Okay. For my majors, I have Fairy Fire, Bark Skin, and Entangle Roots. That 0.2 seconds less of Entangle Roots is very good to have because when you do Arena, you really want to use Root as much as you can. Because when you're rooting them and they're not being dispelled, that's time that saves you from having to heal because your person you're healing is taking less damage. It also really owns rogues because rogues, if they're not getting dispelled, they're useless sitting in that Entangle Roots. They'll blow a Cloak of Shadows or Trinket, and the more cooldowns you get them to blow, the better it is for you overall. The Bark Skin is a very important trinket to have. Reduces the chance you'll be critically hit by 25% while Bark Skin is active. That's very crucial. Sometimes I only lived because I had Bark Skin up. If I didn't have Bark Skin, I'd be dead. And then for the minors, I have Glyph of Mark of the Wilds, Glyph of Dash, and then Glyph of the Treant. I like using Glyph of Treant because sometimes they don't notice when you go tree form because you're that tiny little tree. But when you're that gigantic tree, they'll probably switch to you or they'll CC you because they'll know that, you're susceptible when that runs out. And if they don't notice you use tree form, that's good for you. And let me show you. It basically makes you look like the original tree form, how it used to be back when it was good. Hey guys, Tyrozine here. I'm going to talk to you about the add-ons that I use today. I use several add-ons for PvP. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is Gladiator LOSA. This is the one question I've been getting a lot, and you guys have been asking me, what is the add-on that talks? The one that shouts out when they blow their cooldowns, when they use Divine Shield, when they fear. That add-on is called the Gladiator LOSA. I'll have a link in the description for every add-on that I use. The next add-on I use is a Gladius. You'll notice in a lot of the videos on the right side of my screen, it will show all the enemy combatants, when they blow their trinkets, when they're dead. You can right-click their target and it will set focus for you. The next add-on you use is Grid. Right here you'll see Grid. It's basically the same thing as the default UI, except you can drag it all around, you can customize when it shows what heal you're using. You can set it to almost anything. If you take a look here, you can change the height, the width, the border size. You can have it show certain moves are being casted, used. It's a really good add-on. It's very customizable and very friendly. The next one I use is Interrupt Bar. To me, that's one of the best add-ons you can have for Arena as a caster. Right here, you'll see on the bottom right of my screen that it shows Pommel, Counterspell, Pet Silence, Feral Charge Kick. You can also customize it to include other moves you don't see on there. Basically, when the warrior uses Pommel, it will show you how long it's on cooldown for, so you know when you need to start juking again. The next add-on I use is Quartz. And what Quartz does is this. Let me show you. Let me find someone who's casting, for example. Okay, no one's casting. Well, here, I'll cast. Actually, I have to fix my binds. Alright, if you click Starfire right here, it will show you, the cast time, how long it takes to cast. Now, I set focus here. What Quartz will do is, that same exact display you saw when I was casting, which is this, will be right under the focus target, and you'll see what they're casting and how long it's going to take for them to cast. That's very useful when you need to LOS, juke, dodge a fear. You can anticipate what's going to hit you. I use another add-on that's called Say Sapped. Basically, whenever a rogue saps you, your character will shout out in text, I'm sapped, I'm sapped. In case sometimes you tunnel vision and you don't notice you're being sapped, it's a pretty good add-on to have. And then I also use Deadly Boss Mod just for the generic countdown. Another add-on that I use when I heal for RBGs is called Battleground Targets. Now that's very good to have for DPS, but it's also good for healers. Because just like on Gladius, when you right-click the portrait, it sets focus to the target. It makes it easier for you to CC, because in RBGs as a Resto Druid, you should be using your Cyclone, your Roots, your Fairy Fire on all the targets you can. That makes Druids very useful offensively and defensively in RBGs. In arenas, we're very hard to play right now, but in rated battlegrounds, I still think we're one of the best healers. We may get targeted really often because you're Druids, but when you're running 3 to 4 healers, it's a lot easier to kite and survive. Because while they're focusing on you so hard, your team should be dropping their healers or their DPS. It's not hard. Hey guys, Tyrozine here. I've been getting a lot of questions in regards to what rotations and what moves you should be using in Arena. Now, it really does vary, and it's situational, but for example, in 2s and 3s we'll talk about. In 2v2, the majority of the match, I'll be running around like this, and I'll generally keep Life Bloom on me. There's a lot of comps like Mage Rogue, DK Rogue, where if they see a Druid, they're going to switch to the Druid because we'll die. At that time, you want to keep Life Bloom up non-stop. I'll always have Life Bloom either on myself or my partner. Now, in 3v3, if your partner's getting focused and you're in a good position to LOS and heal, keep Life Bloom on him, keep Rejuve up. Every time Regrowth is off cooldown, use it. Keep up Regrowth non-stop, because you're usually within range to heal you and your party with Walgrith. Now, Swift Mend. Anytime my partner's getting to about 60 or 70%, I'll use Swift Mend. I pretty much use it almost any time it's up. It has a short cooldown and it's very efficient to use. Now, I've been getting questions about what are these macros right here in my bars. You'll see the Cyclone icon, and it says 1, 2, and 3. What it does is when you're in an arena, on the right side of your screen, there will be 3 rows. There'll be the first enemy, second enemy, and third enemy. Each of those macros is set to each of those targets. Now, you guys might say, well, why don't you just, make a macro to target them into Cyclone? You can do that. It's easier for some people, but I'm just used to having separate macros. It does take up extra space, but I don't use too much space anyway. So basically, I'll use my bind, and my first Cyclone 1 will Cyclone the first target, Cyclone 2 the second target, Cyclone 3 the third target. Now you'll see a root macro and a hibernate macro next to that. If you look here, my focus is the training dummy right over there. Now, when I use my Entangle Roots, let me detarget him. What this Entangle Roots macro does is it roots my focus target. Now, when you're doing a match and you come up against, for example, a rogue, when you blow a tree form, Entangle Roots is an instant cast. And it's perfect. Set focus, use your bind, he's rooted, keep running. Now I have a hibernate macro. When you're fighting Kitty Cleave or anything that has a feral druid, you can CC that druid extremely hard. You can root him, you can hibernate him. Hibernate is an 8-second CC. So what I'll do is I'll root the Druid, hibernate him, and clone him. Hibernate, clone, and root do not share DRs. You can also go for a bear stun in between. I've CC'd a Feral Druid one time in a match for probably close to 21 seconds. Because this healer can't dispel a Cyclone, and if he trinkets it, he's susceptible to another CC that my partner or myself may have. Shadow Meld is actually very good. It makes them have to retarget you. A lot of times when you're getting really low, I'll just quickly blow Shadow Melds, and that will give my Life Balloon enough time to proc, and then I'm almost back to full health. When you're fighting rogues, at all times, if possible, if you can do it, get Fairy Fire on him. Because he can't re-stealth with Fairy Fire. He can stealth, but you'll be able to see him. Keep up Fairy Fire, Insect Swarm, Moon Fire. Keep all of those up on the target if you can. So when you're in arena, you want to try to use all your moves as much as possible. Root the melees, bear stun. You can try the interrupts in bear form and cat form, but sometimes it's not as good as it used to because we don't have fail charge anymore with the challenge tree changes. But if you can do that, go for it. You know. What else do we get? Nature Swiftness. A lot of times I'll save Nature Swiftness for an instant Cyclone on the kill. Let's say Melee's training you in 3v3, and if you need another CC and your partner CCs are DR'd, that's the perfect time for you to do Nature Swiftness and Cyclone. Because if you don't want to risk a juke, it's perfect. Now, some people might say, well, why don't you juke? If you spend the time trying to juke as a as a Resto Druid, you'll probably die. Because we can't cast a big heal with melees on us, and if we do and we get interrupted, we're dead. Or we'll have to trinkets, blow tree and bark skin, and you want to try to save your cooldowns as much as possible. I try not to use bark skin and tree at the same time, but if you're getting trained extremely hard, it's good to use both. But if you can rotate around your cooldowns, you'll live a lot longer in arena. The druids who tend to die in arena are the ones who blow every single cooldown at once. Because the minute your cooldowns are off and you have nothing left, they'll switch to you and you'll die. I hope the tips I've shown you guys will help you out. It's my first video on my spec, gems, and rotations. Like I said, this is all my opinion. Everyone has their own opinions to how they should play rotations, gems. This is just the way I play. And if you guys have any more questions, just leave it in the description below, and I will respond when I can. Thanks.